Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. The 18th edition of the World Athletics Championships got underway earlier today, and already fans have been treated to some classy performances. There has already been action in the men's and women's hammer throw, along with the men's high jump. The times that you're seeing are, it's Jamaica time, so you can reference, it's the same time in the US at the moment. Jamaicans have qualified. The Jamaicans qualified for the final of the mixed 4x400 meters relay, taking third in their qualifying heat in 3 minutes 13.95 seconds. The team of Demish Gay, Renisha McGregor, Kimar Bartley, and Tiffany Rose finished behind the Dominican Republic and the Republic of Ireland. That's the confirmation of the placings there, heat 2 of 2. South Africa did not go, so 7 of them actually answered the starters' gun. Joining us to discuss day one action to date from Eugene, Oregon. He's not in Eugene, Oregon, is our own, the expert, Leighton Levy. Good afternoon, Leighton.
Hey, George. Next time we can say we go Budapest next year.
Yes, sir. But of course, a man like you deserves to return to Budapest. We know that you've backpacked across Europe in your previous career, so it's nice for you to return to your own stomping ground. Right. So, for those who came in late, Leighton, summarize the best of the action from day one to date.
I think the high jump was interesting. Of course, Barshim, as usual, as we expected, and of course, Javon Harrison, who was of Jamaican lineage, have advanced from their group. There were some challenges with the Italian gold medalist who shared the gold medal with Barshim last year. He struggled at 225, but eventually got through clear 228, and so that was interesting this morning. The hammer throw was pretty much what was expected, but I thought that the mixed relays were quite interesting, and I thought that the Dominican Republic did really well. Of course, they put in Paulino, who is their best 400-meter runner, to ensure that they got through. And of course, she delivered in a big way, a 49.5 split on her ankle leg in the heat that Jamaica finished second in. I think that pretty much sums up what we saw, because a lot of the other events that we saw today were primarily preliminaries. That in the 100 meters, for example, we don't expect anybody from the preliminaries to advance beyond the heats tomorrow, tonight, later this evening. So there wasn't much interest there in terms of anything that probably raised your eyebrows. So it was a pretty calm and stable first opening session for the World Championship. There were some concerns that I heard coming out of the camp about the throws coaches not being allowed to be in the stadium with their athletes, which is not the usual practice. I'm awaiting some confirmation from the Jamaican contingent, because, as you know, we have a couple of throws coming up later in the women's competition. So I guess we'll find out eventually how that unfolds once that competition begins later on this evening.
Yeah. Were you, like the rest of us in the zone room, a bit taken aback by, well, perhaps not taken aback, that's rather inelegant, disappointed is a more precise word to use, with how the Bahamas showed in their mixed relay heat, because you get the impression you could have run that race into the Christmas season and the Bahamas would still be behind. What went wrong with the quartet and the performance there?
I was a little bit surprised, but beyond Shawnee Miller-Weebo and of course Stephen Gardner, the Bahamas has a lack of depth in terms of that quality. So I'm not really surprised. I think they're in a transition period right now where they're bringing through additional talent, but that talent is just not ready yet. And I think that was what manifested today. I was a little bit, you can expect them to be in the mix, but when you consider the circumstances and the athletes that they had and they're available, there wasn't really much surprising about the performance.
Yeah, Leighton, a couple more heats coming up this evening. Anyone that we should be cued into?
Well, certainly the men's 100 meters is going to be interesting, because all three Jamaicans, Johan Blake, Akeem Blake, and of course Oblique Seville will be contesting to advance to the semifinals tomorrow. So that's something to look forward to. I think when you consider the talent that has emerged in Jamaica for the past, year and a half, the past 2 years. Kind of excited to see, Jamaica's athletes coming through. We're looking at the athlete from Guyana today who ran 10:31, I think, in his qualifying, his preliminary round. He won't advance. I don't think he'll advance beyond the heats tonight. I'd be surprised if he does. They're just simply not fast enough. But I'm excited. I'm really excited about the three Jamaicans tonight. I'm keen to see how Akeem Blake handles these circumstances. This is the highest level at which he's performed. We saw him earlier chase down Christian Coleman in a meet in, I think it was Kentucky. I don't remember where it was. But, he's showing that, he's not intimidated by circumstance. So let's see how he manages being at the World Championships in a heat that will most likely have one or two contenders in it tonight, and see how he manages that, because that may very well determine whether or not he advances to the final. There's a lot of interest there as well as to see how Yohan Blake, returning to form, now navigates from the heats into the semifinals, and of course from the semifinals to the finals. Oblique Sevilla has had the experience of the Olympics last year, so I think he'll be ready to compete. And I think, based on what I'm hearing, before he even left Jamaica, Glenders was very satisfied with his preparation. So I think we can probably expect good performances from all three Jamaicans tonight in the sprints, the 100-meter sprint. So that's one of some of the things that I'm looking forward tonight to see. Because in the throws, of course, Daniel Thomas-Dodd, I think, is going up tonight in the shot put for women. When I spoke to her earlier at the national championships, she said that this is probably the healthiest she's been in a couple of years. So let's see what that actually means now at this level, whether or not she can push something close to 19 meters to qualify for the finals, and then perhaps go on and try to contend for a medal. So, let's see how those things shake out this evening, because I think this Jamaican squad, I think, is a pivotal one in many ways, because we have a lot of first-timers in this squad. Cherokee Young, of course, was at the Olympics last year. I remember the 4x4 squad is now competing individually, and of course announced today on Puma Performance that she's now signed with Puma just after her sophomore year at Texas A&M. And, so and of course, Oblique Seville, Conroy Jones. The sad news is that Anthony Cox tested positive for COVID, so I think he's probably out for the championships. But we're seeing a lot of the next generation of talent coming through from the Caribbean, and more specifically Jamaica. So I think it's an exciting time, and how well they perform at these championships will determine, could determine, how they shape up in the years to come. Because, as you know, there's a championships next year, then the Olympics in Paris, and then of course it returns to Tokyo for 2025 for the next World Championships.
Yeah, Leighton, you touched on Emmanuel Archibald just now, the Guyanese, who was the fastest of the qualifiers in the prelims in the 100 meters earlier on, 10:31. You seem convinced that he won't be able to go beyond the heats of the 100 later tonight. But he does have some long jumping ability as well. 8.12 meters his personal best. Actually was a long jump performer at the last Worlds in Doha. Do you see him making more of a mark in the long jump than in the 100 meters?
It is likely that he will. He's shown himself to be a quality long jumper, Lance, for a good while now. Even from his years as a junior, he showed the capacity to be an 8-meter jumper, which is where I think you need to be competitive in the world today. 10:31, he's going to have to run a lot faster, I think, tonight to advance. Because when you consider that it's the best 16 that are going to advance, and when you consider the depth of talent across the board, unfortunately, Omenlaya might not be there, because we're hearing that his flight arrives in Eugene about 50 minutes before he actually takes the field. But I think, having run 9.8 this year, he probably will be good enough to come into the heat if he can get to the stadium on time, and then run something in the region of 10-1s, and of course advance and go back to the camp and get a good night's sleep. And hopefully we'll be refreshed tomorrow, notwithstanding the extensive traveling from Kenya. But I think the quality across the board, while not extraordinarily deep, I think is just a little bit too deep at 10:31 for him to advance as probably one of the fastest finishers from the respective heats. Not that I'm wishing ill of him, because, who knows? Maybe proper time and find himself in the semi-finals. I just don't see it happening in these championships.
All right, Leighton, of course, we'll be having a lot more to discuss on the World Athletic Championship in Oregon over the next week and a half. And we will continue to be linking with you daily on the exploits of the Caribbean athletes in Oregon.
Looking forward to that, guys.
Okay, Double L, I call him, Leighton Levy. Now, sticking with athletics, we continue to preview the upcoming Commonwealth Games. And today we look at New Zealand legend Valerie Adams.
A dominant Valerie Adams with a new Commonwealth Games record.
Valerie Adams. Oh, and that is a new Commonwealth Games record, 20:47.
Yeah, so Adams is a veteran of 5 Commonwealth Games. She's also a 4-time world champion, 4-time world indoor champion, 2-time Olympic champion, 3-time Commonwealth Game champion, and twice IAAF Continental Cup winner. Is she not one of the greatest of all time, George and Moran?
Yeah, well, the amount of titles that you just read out, I think you answered the question for yourself. I mean, she's won so many accolades, you know. Her wins speak for themselves.
Yeah, all you need to say in this case is men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Lie.
Simple as that.
Well, he answered before.
Yeah, that's all.
A 7-time Sportswoman of the Year in New Zealand as well. We go to break. Still a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone.
Thank you for watching SportsMax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay informed.